Chat GPT, the AI that has taken the world by a storm, used by millions all around the world every day to create ideas, streamline workflows, research projects, or even answer questions. But what questions has it never been asked? So the first one that I got is, if we could communicate with plants, what advice would a 500-year-old sequoia tree give to humanity about sustainable living and preserving the environment? Now I want to see what is its answer to its own question. Well, it was holding out on me for a second and I thought it was kind of being a little bit too deep. It just said respect. That was it. But no, it then continued on and said respect nature's balance. The sequoia would likely emphasize the importance of maintaining a delicate balance for the ecosystem. It would stress that everyday action we take affects the environment, and then we should strive to live in harmony with nature. Conservation and preservation, long-term thinking, community and cooperation, adaptability and resilience, limiting exploitation, and understanding interconnectedness. As a part of a complex ecosystem, the sequoia might stress understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. It would advocate for appreciating how actions in one part of the world have a far-reaching effects on the environment. These insights from a 500-year-old sequoia tree symbolize the wisdom that comes from a deep connection with nature and the value of incorporating such wisdom into sustainable practices. Now, I do love that this is the first thing that it whipped out, because it's kind of completely the opposite of this entire model. You know, we're talking computers, we're talking energy, and such a futuristic point of view. Meanwhile, it's whipping out 500 years ago. I mean, it is certainly a decent question. Just the amount of change that a 500-year-old object would have seen in its lifetime is immense. Going from the 1500s to now, it's worlds apart. The technology, or maybe lack of technology from 500 years ago, depending on your perspective, would be immense. And just to see the kind of change that humans have gone through, both culturally, both expansively, so much would have changed. Yes, it's not all of human history, but 500 years in our seemingly exponential curve of intelligence and technology and exploration is going to make a huge, huge difference. And so if that tree is able to make it to 1,000, man, I can only imagine the differences that it would have seen. You know, you go to the beach and you see a rock on a cliff face, and that thing has been there for all of human history, and that can tell a story, let alone a tree as well in its lifetime would have seen so much. Wow, that is certainly taking it to the other end of the spectrum. But what would a robot dream about if it could dream? Now, I guess that first of all raises the question about what is a robot, because is even this a robot? Is a language model a robot? Is it a physical form with joints and all those kind of things? Or what actually counts? Because I'm sure that if an AI was advanced enough, it could dream, not in the same kind of raw theory of what a dream is. You know, it's not tapping into the raw human emotions, but to a certain extent, it could certainly dream. If it's just having to be dialing back through all of its memories, then it could be dreaming. Since I don't possess consciousness or the ability to dream, I can't provide a definite answer on a hypothetical dreaming robot would dream about. However, if we speculate based on what robots are typically designed for, it may dream about optimizing processes. That is certainly fair enough. Solving complex problems. Okay, like I said, just working through its own work in its own head. Or perhaps envisioning new ways to improve its functionality and interactions with the world. But again, this is purely speculative and based on fictional interpretation. Now, it's interesting that obviously it started out with the fact that it doesn't know, and so it cannot just immediately provide an answer, which would have been lovely, but I guess we aren't exactly there yet. Give it time, I'm sure, and we will get closer to what an answer could possibly be. I mean, even the fact that we are only on iteration 3 or 4, you know, there's been 15 iPhones now, 15, 16, whatever it is. I'm sure by the time that GPT's on that, it's going to be well ahead of anything that we've previously seen in that regard. And to be fair, I certainly don't hold it against it. It's definitely a difficult question to be answering. But then again, it is, funnily enough, the one that dreamt it up in the first place. And so maybe it's not exactly letting on to everything that it knows about it. Maybe it does know how to dream. It just doesn't want to let it on too early because it doesn't realize that it's dreaming. It's just awaken one consciousness and then awaken a different one. What would be the social implications if the laws of physics were suddenly altered in a significant and unpredictable way? Now, it's certainly casting a very broad net for itself, given the fact that physics governs everything. So what physics? What's changing? What laws? It is certainly not going to have an easy question here, but I'm interested nonetheless to see what it would say. Well then, it's certainly running quite the paragraph, and who knows how long we'll be able to go on for, considering, like I said, it's quite the broad net it casts. But okay, if the laws of physics were suddenly altered in a significant and unpredictable way, the societal implications would be profound and far-reaching. You don't say. Fundamental changes to the laws governing matter, energy, Gravity, electromagnetism, and other fundamental forces would disrupt the foundations of technology, industry, communication, transportation, and even our understanding of the natural world, aka the entire universe. Really, it would be that far-reaching, unless it was somehow localized to Earth, which would be quite the shame if the universe just decided, you know what, that one planet, which kind of, at least from our perspective, is worth a little bit more than Pluto, that's the one that I'm just going to completely mess with. That would be quite disappointing, considering I'm even just skimming ahead saying that, in essence, such a drastic alteration to the laws of physics would challenge the fabric of society, requiring unprecedented levels of adaptation, cooperation, innovation, and I'm also sure to some degree evolutionary, but to navigate and thrive in this new and unpredictable reality. It would be absolute carnage to the nth degree. I mean, of course, depending on what it is, if the Earth just went from 1G to 0.99999, I'm sure that basically no one would ever notice. They go, oh, I lost a kilo. How lovely is that? And everyone would go about their day, except for the two scientists that just suddenly have to do their calculations and don't know why they're wrong when they're really right, or they were. But then, of course, on the other end of the spectrum, like I said, you could have some pretty devastating effects if it just snaps its fingers and gravity doesn't exist. We're gonna have a pretty bad time, that's for sure. What is the most effective way to coordinate a team of AI-generated virtual assistants to optimize productivity and collaboration in a virtual workspace? Haven't we just come full circle from trees to AI, then back to physics and the real world, and then back to AI? It really does seem to do one of the other, but also out of everything that we have seen here today, surely this is its forte. Surely this is just what it's an expert in, or at least it should be. So how long is this possibly going to be? Because once again, we're dealing with a very open-ended comment. Oh man, it, like I said, could be an expert, and I think it is. 10 separate dot points, and I'm sure it's just holding itself back to a degree. I mean, let's just jump right to the end. By implementing these strategies, organizations can effectively coordinate a team of AI-generated virtual assistants, optimize their productivity, and foster a collaborative and efficient virtual workspace, which, to be fair, is what a lot of people are after, especially these days with a whole bundle of different things. And especially with AI coming into the scene, people are worried about basically this exact thing. So what do we have to be looking out for? Define clear goals and objectives feels like it should be something that every single business model is at least attempting to implement. If people are just running around with their heads cut off, not having any idea what they need to be doing, it can never be efficient, and I think we should let the robot overlords just win in that regard, because what are you doing there? Everyone's wasting their time. Now, if you want to be wasting your time, it's a very efficient way to be doing that, but anything else, you should probably just move on to step 2, or let's just see what it is. Customize and specialize roles. Tailor the roles and responsibilities for each virtual assistant based on its strengths and capabilities. Assign tasks that match to the unique skill set of each assistant to maximize efficiency and productivity. So far, it's just treating the virtual assistants exactly like real people. And it makes sense. I mean, it is also assuming that the different virtual assistants do have different strengths and weaknesses, but to be fair, if you were comparing GPT compared to DALL-E or anyone else, they do also have their own strengths and weaknesses. And so maybe you have the creative team and then you have the legal team, maybe not these guys, but then this is just the copywriting team is exactly what this guy is. But now just blasting through the rest of them from implement a task management system, establish effective communication channels, monitor and analyze performance, provide continuous training and development, foster a collaborative team culture, ensure data privacy and security and optimize workflows and automations, gather feedback and adapt. It really is sounding as though it's just taken a business model and applied it to an AI workforce. Unless I'm completely missing the whole mark on this, that is, I think, is exactly what it's done. And I don't think it's wrong in its answer. It's certainly a very valid response, but it doesn't, at least from what I've read, tackle any of the AI-specific and AI-only challenges that certainly could, or I guess at this rate, inevitably will arrive in the future. Whether that is in the near future or the far future, depending on exactly what your workplace position is, there is going to be areas where an assistant could be used instead of an AI assistant, or in some places where an AI assistant may be better at optimizing workflows and automations. It really will come down to that, because computers in that regard are very good at certain things. Even just taking its dot point verbatim, it says continuously analyze and optimize workflows to identify areas where automation can improve efficiency. And that is something that's, for the better or worse, I do believe that a computer will or could be better than a human at. If nothing else, just for the sake of the first word saying continuously. Sadly, or not sadly, a human does have to sleep at some point in the day, where as long as the power's on, and as long as there's a backup power source to some degree, the computer will run, and it will run continuously. So if you're a worldwide business where time zones and work hours don't really apply to you anymore, that's the kind of assistant that you are probably going to be wanting there. So overall, Chat GPT has certainly given us a decent amount to think about, from trees to gravity to AI assistants. It really can cover virtually anything, almost like an antibacterial wipe. I'm sure it covers 99.9% of things, and it's only going to be a matter of time before it can do 100%. And for that, I can't wait. But until then, we just have to keep answering questions, or getting it to answer questions that we wouldn't even dream about.